Welbeck Abbey in the Dukeries in North Nottinghamshire was the site of a monastery belonging to the Premonstratensian order in England, and after the dissolution of the monasteries, a country house residence of the Dukes of Portland. It is one of 4 contiguous ducal estates in North Nottinghamshire, and the house is a Grade I listed building. History. The estate was mentioned in the Domesday Book, where it is recorded as belonging to Hugh Fitzbaldrick. Thomas de Cockney founded the religious house in 1140. It was an abbey of Premonstratensian canons, dedicated to St. James the Great. The abbey was enriched by gifts from the Gaz Hills, Dencourts, Bassets, and other families from Nottinghamshire, and it received a considerable grant from King Edward I. In 1393 the abbey came under serious investigation by King Richard II. Pardon to William Brown of Norton by Welbeck of suit of the King's peace for felonies, treasons and other offences under the following circumstances: Robert Veal, keeper of the rolls of the King's Bench, and John Winchecombe, appointed by the King to take carts for the carriage of the rolls, being directed on Saturday before the feast of St. Catherine last by Walter Clopton, Chief Justice, and other justices, to carry the said rolls from York to Nottingham, whereupon by reason of excessive rainfall affecting the roads, they could not without additional horses reach Nottingham, whereupon by virtue of the commission and the justice's order they took at Norton aforesaid 2 horses of John Levitt and John Turnor of Norton, to be paid for in due course. Thereupon the said William Brown, John Northerin, Robert Bocker, all of Norton, and Hugh Matt, servant of John Bowkwell, Abbot of Welbeck, with divers other evildoers, came armed with bows and arrows, sticks and swords, and at dusk of the same day raised all the men of Norton to insurrection, pursued the said Robert and John to Wasp, and instigated by Simon de Castleton, canon of Welbeck, and John Worsip, vicar of Cockney and canon of Welbeck, assaulted them, shot at and pierced the books in the carriage, and took the horses, and would have carried the same away, but that by the grace of God and the help they made too good a defence, with so much wealth at his disposal. The Abbot of Welbeck was an influential man, and in 1512 all the houses of the order in England were placed under his care. In 1538, the Abbot Richard Bentley was awarded a pension of £50, and the 17 canons received pensions of between £40 and £4 and a year. At the dissolution of the monasteries, the site was granted by Henry VIII to Richard Whalley of Screveton. After being owned by a City of London clothier, the abbey was purchased by Gilbert VII, Earl of Shrewsbury, for the sum of £555 6s. in 1599, and sold to Sir Charles Cavendish, son of Bess of Hardwicke, in 1607. It passed to his son William Cavendish, later 1st Duke of Newcastle. It became the seat of the Dukes. Members of the Cavendish family converted it into a country house and added a riding house in the 17th century to the design of Robert Smithson and his son John. Only basements and inner walls were retained from the original fabric of the old abbey buildings. In the 18th century, it passed through an heiress into the Bentinck family and became the seat of the Earls and Dukes of Portland. Modern history. The house's Oxford wing, which contained some of the oldest parts of the building, burned down in October 1900, although most of the contents were saved. The wing was rebuilt to the designs of Ernest George by 1905. Archduke Franz Ferdinand accepted an invitation from the 6th Duke of Portland to stay at Welbeck Abbey, and arrived with his wife, Sophie, by train at Worksop on the 22nd of November 1913. This was almost a year before his assassination, which triggered the First World War. The Archduke narrowly avoided being killed in a hunting accident during his stay when a loader fell and caused a shotgun to go off within feet of the Archduke and his host. Over the course of the First World War itself, between 1914 and 1919, the kitchen block was used as an army hospital. After the Second World War, Welbeck was leased by the Dukes of Portland to the Ministry of Defence and was operated as Welbeck College, an army training college, until 2005. Lady Anne Cavendish Bentinck, the unmarried elder daughter of the 7th Duke, lived at Welbeck Wood House, and owned most of the 17,000-acre estate, up until her death on 29 December 2008. William Henry Marcello Parente, son of her younger sister, Lady Victoria Margaret Cavendish Bentinck, who married Gaetano Parente, Prince of Castelviscardo, inherited the estates from his aunt. Since the Ministry of Defence moved out in 2005, Welbeck Abbey has been his home. The family-controlled Welbeck Estates Company and the charitable Harley Foundation have converted some estate buildings to new uses, and there is access to them from the A60 road on the western side of the estate. They include the Dukeries Garden Centre in the estate glasshouses, the School of Artisan Food in the former fire stables, the Harley Gallery and Foundation, and the Welbeck Farm Shop in the former estate gasworks, and a range of craft workshops, designed by John Notram in a former kitchen garden. Pedestrian access across the Welbeck estate is confined to footpaths forming part of the Robin Hood Way. The first No Direction Home Festival was held at Welbeck Abbey over the weekend of 8 to 10 June 2012. The End of the Road affiliated festival was headlined by Richard Hawley, The Low Anthem, and Andrew Bird. In 2016 it was used as the location for the BBC's baking series Bake Off, Crème de la Crème. Architecture. The 5th Duke of Portland undertook the most substantial building works at Welbeck. The kitchen gardens covered 22 acres and were surrounded by high walls with recesses in which braziers could be placed to hasten the ripening of fruit. One of the walls, a peach wall, measured over 1,000 feet in length. An immense riding house was built which was 396 long, 108 wide and 50 feet high. At the time it was the second largest riding house in the world, exceeded only by the huge manege adjacent to the Kremlin in Moscow. Nearby was a tan gallops of 422 yards. It was lit by 4,000 gas jets and was heated to enable training at night and in winter. The tan gallops is named after the spongy oak chips that covered its floor. They were a byproduct from leather tanning and a good surface for the horses to run on. A tunnel, more than 1,000 yards in length, led from the house to the riding school. It was wide enough for several people to walk side by side. Parallel to it was another, more roughly constructed and used by workmen. A longer, more elaborate tunnel, 1.5 miles long, intended as a carriage drive broad enough for 2 carriages to pass, led towards workshop. This tunnel was abandoned in the late 19th century when a section forming part of the lake dam failed. Remaining stretches of tunnel survive on either side of the lake. The tunnel's skylights can be seen from the Robin Hood Way footpath which follows its course, and a masonry entrance can be seen between 2 lodges, at the northeastern limit of the park. The 5th Duke excavated to create a number of extensions to the mansion. Although cited as being underground rooms, these apartments are strictly below ground, as they are not covered by earth or lawn. The flat roofs and skylights are visible in aerial photographs, although at ground level they are concealed from most directions by shrubbery. The largest is a great hall, 160 feet long and 63 feet wide, intended as a chapel but used as a picture gallery and occasionally as a ballroom. There is a suite of 5 adjacent rooms constructed to house the Duke's library. The Duke made many alterations to the house above ground. Elaborate bathrooms were added. New lodges were built at the park entrances. The work cost prodigious sums and employed thousands of men, masons, bricklayers, joiners, plumbers. While there were disputes from time to time, the Duke got on well with his employees and earned the nickname, the workman's friend. He created employment for skilled and unskilled workers. By 1879, Welbeck was in a state of disrepair. The only habitable rooms were the 4 or 5 rooms used by the 5th Duke in the West Wing. All were painted pink, with parquet floors, all bare and without furniture, and almost every room had a water closet in the corner. The house was repaired by the 6th Duke, and became notable as a centre of late Victorian and Edwardian upper-class society. The Duke was a keen horse owner, and almhouses he constructed on the estate are known as the winnings, funded by money won by his horses in 7 high purse races from 1888 to 1890. Welbeck Wood House. A smaller house known as Welbeck Wood House was built on the northern side of the estate for the then Marquess of Titchfield in 1930-31. This was built to a design by Walter Brierley but executed after Brierley's death by his partner James Harvey Rutherford. List of owners and occupiers. California 1086 Hugh Fitzbaldrick 1140–1538 Premonstratensian canons in the Abbey of St. James.